there, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Fight Fibro Green and Clean, the live Q&A sessions here on Facebook, YouTube, and several other places as well. So I want to say thank you for joining me. I'm having a bit of a rough week, and I'm having some tech difficulties, so hopefully that doesn't interfere with today's broadcast. And I am playing around with StreamYard, so that's becoming a little newer for me. So let's just see here. Today, let's just try and, this thing's like right in my face. All right. And yeah, you know what? I have been struggling with with fibro flares for a little over a week now. That being said, I'm hoping that today I can shed a little bit of light for those of you who have also sent in questions directly related to fibro flares. I do have some suggestions. The bottom line is that fibro flares are, they're instrumental in in helping us to, um, they're a key component to managing fibro. Lies in the ability to recognize and possibly avoid or prevent triggers, right? So what are some of the most common triggers? Triggers are the mostly external stimuli that cause an internal response or reaction. So basically, and more accurately for us fibro fighters, a trigger can be identified as that thing or things that aggravate a symptom or two and causes a cacophony of irritations and negative responses. It tends to be something that will manifest itself physically. So a lot of us are aware of some of the things that will provoke a flare. For example, diet. There are certain foods that will trigger a fibro flare. Some people find staying away from gluten products or dairy products really makes a difference in the number of fibro flares that they have. Excessive activity or energy that's expended that may be too intense is likely. You're not used to walking and you end up doing a 20-kilometer walk because it's a beautiful day, or you end up overdoing it. So again, different activities that may be too intense or too much are likely to cause a fibro flare. Stressful environments or stressful people, quite frankly, let's face it. You're in the grocery store and you've got buddy in front of you that just won't get out of your way, or so stressful environments, stressful people. When we get stressed, our bodies get tense. All kinds of physiological things happen. All kinds of things happen in our brain. Chemical shitstorm happens, and you can end up in a full fibro flare as well. Sleep disturbances is another big thing for fibro flares. Sleep, or a lack of good, healthy, quality sleep. You're going to end up having a flare if you don't get good quality sleep. So now, one of the things you can do is, if you haven't already, subscribe at fightfibro.ca, and you can download a battle strategy guide there. That will offer you some guidance and a couple of templates too, to help you identify the triggers that are happening in your life, in your everyday. And it provides some great insight that allows you to take a preventative action. And it also helps you to manage your day-to-day a little more trigger-free. Because basically, fibro fighters find trigger foods, and adjusting their diet can provide tremendous relief. Knowing your physical energy limits, adjusting your plans accordingly can make the difference between a good day and a bad day. The point is, when you start paying attention to things that screw with your comfort zone, you can create new comfort zones. Okay? Having a battle plan or a strategic plan of action, it's not enough to keep the flares away or at bay. There's simply influences in our day-to-day that's just part of living that we have no control over. Things like weather. The weather. Okay, and temperature fluctuations. Okay, there are all kinds of fibro patients who will say that yes, fibro flares are directly related to weather changes. A lot of fibro patients that'll say that. Now, there are some studies that report that the barometric pressure affects us, while others find that there's no association. And in fact, in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of studies saying that there is no correlation to weather temperature changes and fibromyalgia suffering flare ups. Okay. But that said, there is a definite association between flare ups of rheumatoid arthritis like symptoms in accordance with or in combination with weather changes. So basically, a wetter, colder climate that affects arthritis pain adversely is very likely to affect us fibro sufferers because we have so much in common with rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis patients. Further to that, it's important to note that a low back pain, which most fibro fighters suffer from, will get worse with weather. And so does, of course, like I said, the osteoarthritis pain. It's probably due to the changes in humidity and temperatures. There's also, notably, the presence of anxiety and depression lead to an increased reporting of weather sensitive pain. So, what's a warrior supposed to do? Really? I mean, what can we do? Well, the bottom line is we do the same thing for battling something like weather as we do for an emotional trigger. And it's called, plain and simple, self care. That's it. It's that simple, self care, and to be aware. Awakening or stimulating any one of our senses, whether it's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, so that's a feeling, olfactory, smell, or gustatory, taste. Any of those senses can trigger a full on flare. It's and when one of those senses triggers, it's like unlocking the door for an unruly child to run throughout our body and have a major temper tantrum. Temper tantrum. Oh my goodness, temper tantrum. It can affect your cognitive function. It can affect your ability to speak clearly or effectively, concisely. The bottom line is there's a large percentage of fibro fighters who suffer from various forms of PTSD, and many are related to adverse childhood experiences or events. And although that is a whole show in itself, I am going to address it somewhat for today's purposes. Basically, for all intent purposes, a traumatic event or experience or combination during our formative years created a type of PTSD with delayed somatization. So what that means is it's like a sleeping monster. So it's not that the PTSD wasn't there. It's just you were a really creative child and you learned to get past it. You learned to take that little trauma and bury it deep inside, and it went to sleep. And at some point in your adult years, that little trauma thing woke up and is now manifesting in physical sensations. So these emotional triggers, it's not surprising then that fibromyalgia patients are triggered emotionally very easily and can end up in a fibro flare. But these emotional triggers make it very difficult to to detect or identify in advance, right? I mean, how did you know that Buddy bringing home the coffee in that commercial was going to trigger a flare for you? So, how does one prepare for that sort of thing? It's skill training and development. You have just really got to build yourself up so that when it does hit you, you can respond. You have the strength to not fall apart. So skill training and developing, yep, just like in martial arts, every day and every way you want to build your mind, you want to build your body, you want to build your spirit, you want to heal from that trauma, which has its own unique therapeutic approaches, okay? When you're dealing with trauma, there's a lot of different, because it's typically multifaceted, so is the response to it, or the healing response to it. Now, hypnotherapy combined with NLP techniques is extremely powerful at helping to deal with PTSD, helping to deal with other emotional triggers or flares. It also helps to train our brain to run different programs. So, for example, when the VACOG, okay, training your brain to run a different program when it's triggered by the VACOG again, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. This all takes practice. Working with a skilled hypnotist and NLP practitioner such as myself can really help you to take back the power and control over your life. Your wellness and your happiness is currently being held hostage by the dis-ease that your brain and body are experiencing. And if you want to know more about that, you can book a free discovery call with me. Learn the ways in which I can help you help you. And honestly, in just a few sessions, you will find a huge change and difference in your wellness, in your ability to cope, in particular with things like fibro flares. Because although we can do all the right things for ourselves, we can manage our diet effectively, we can have healthy sleep hygiene practices, we can have healthy exercise routines and practices. And these, doing all of this and having yourself in a great state affords you much more freedoms and less flare attacks. However, as I said, emotional responses can trigger a flare, weather can trigger a flare, stress can trigger a flare. There are all kinds of things that can trigger a flare. And besides those that of which you are simply aware. So, what are some of the other things that you can do to help cope during a fibro flare? Of course, and this can't be said often enough. Regular gentle exercise is probably one of the most effective ways that fibro flare-ups can be avoided or diminished and the pain managed. And I know that sounds counterintuitive if your body is screaming in pain. And I was just there a few days ago, and I'm telling you, my friends, it was the worst fibro flare I have experienced in years. I managed it pharmaceutical free. Yay me. But for 3 days, it felt like a Mack truck was having a heyday running back and forth over me like it was nobody's business. So exercising doesn't exactly jump to the forefront of your mind as one of the tools, but believe it or not, that simple stretching throughout the day, several times throughout the day, if you can bring yourself to doing it, a little bit of rehabilitative yoga, and if not, simply resistance, using the rubber bands to resist, get those muscles stretched, keep the tendons fluid, keep things moving. They won't stiffen up as much. The inflammation doesn't have an opportunity to fill in. So again, regular, gentle exercises several times throughout the day will help you build up endurance, muscle strength. It will also help you to avoid things like depression, and emotion follows motion. So when you're being physically active, your mood is likely to be boosted. Okay. This is very important to have a good, positive attitude, even though you're in the throes of a flare. And I know how counterintuitive or counterproductive that sounds. It's like, yeah, I can't exercise. I hurt like hell and I feel like crap. Okay, so we have to change your attitude, and we have to change, and we can do that simply by moving and stretching and rehabilitative yoga. Absolutely essential. Another thing, after a really good stretch or previous to a stretch, and sometimes even in the midst of a stretch, or in, I will do a stretch in a nice warm bath, simply because my body cannot take the pressure of weight from gravity. Stretching in a nice hot bath. If your bathtub is big enough, try a hot shower if that, if getting in the tub is not your thing. But warm bath and cannabis infused topicals. Oh my word. I am ever so grateful to the cannabis infused topicals. Uh, I myself love a very simple, easy to make cannabis infused coconut oil cream lotion that I use. And that's all that it is. It's also edible, but it's topical. The coconut oil is really good for your skin, as is the cannabis. There's no chance of a psychotropic high. You cannot get high from applying it topically. Amongst other things, THC is hydrophobic, which means it will not penetrate deep enough to get into the bloodstream. There's just too much fluid in our bodies, too much H2O so you get the idea there. You cannot get high from using a topical, but it does mitigate the migrating aches and pains. It helps to reduce the inflammation. So getting in a nice warm bath, maybe you have cannabis infused bath salts. Oh, yay, if you do, because they'll help you feel tremendously better. And if not, when you get out of the tub, definitely, or out of the shower, nice warm shower, definitely give yourself a rub down using an infused topical cream. If you don't have an infused topical, make your own. It's super easy. And if you don't want to make your own, there's all kinds on the market. Here, my recommendation is not for any one product in particular. Rather, I will say keep it simple. The lesser amount of ingredients, the more likely it is to be effective for you. Okay. And remember, we are chemical sensitive creatures, being fibro fighters, which means we don't want to put a chemical shitstorm on our skin and absorb those chemicals, right? Avoiding a large number of ingredients would be a good idea. Again, I go back to the basic of make your own. It's easy. Here are the ingredients. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. Coconut oil and cannabis. Yeah. You need a crock pot, you need a strainer, you need product, obviously, like cannabis products. So you can use either good quality trim or shake. You can even use bud if you like. And then using cannabis coconut oil. There's a recipe on my website at greenirene.ca. You'll probably also find it on fightfibro.ca. And I don't think it's on healthyselfhypnosis.com. So, but either way, you can find a very easy to make cannabis infused coconut oil recipe, and it'll make all the difference in your world, especially during, post, and prior to fibro flares. Now, another tool that I speak on often, and still I receive a lot of questions, is meditation. Meditation is absolutely essential to the management of our mind and our mood. As I said earlier, a lot of fibro patients suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, typically from adverse childhood experiences. And not necessarily. I mean, you could be experiencing PTSD from a car accident in your 20s or in your 30s. And maybe there's no sign of PTSD whatsoever. But there is something going on in your mind, in the brain, in the chemicals that are and the enzymes that are being produced. And meditation really helps organize or give an opportunity for that to all become very organized. So meditation genuinely is one of the greatest gifts that I have given myself. Whether I meditate for 3 minutes or 30 minutes a day, every single minute counts in getting better and better every day in every way. That's not my quote. That is an Emile Coué quote, but I get better and better every day in every way. And this is my mantra. And when I start my meditation, this is what I will think to myself. So I've had people call me and say, Irene, I just can't meditate. My brain is moving far too fast and it just won't slow down. And there's always thoughts. Well, thank God you have thoughts, because if you didn't have thoughts, you'd be dead. So meditation is a way of quieting the mind and allowing some, depending on the type of meditation, allowing your subconscious, for lack of a better term, or your internal brain to do some of the stuff that it normally does. Now, that internal brain is a very smart brain. I mean, it keeps your liver functioning, it keeps your blood flowing, it tells you when to move your fingers. The point is slowing down the cognitive brain, the front brain, long enough to allow that primal brain to do its job. And its primary job is to heal us, to keep us alive, to give us the best quality of life that we can have, to get better and better every day in every way, right? Now, some people, myself especially, like to use cannabis. We call it medicate to meditate. Cannabis helps to set the stage for a really good meditation time. A lot of people like the cerebral effects that you get from cannabis. It allows the mind and thoughts to flow easily and transparently, allowing them to form and to dissipate without the need to hold on to a thought. If you can allow that, allow thoughts to move into your mind and right back out, and then allow the next one to flow through, kind of like a river flowing through your mind. Reminding yourself again that you are getting better and better every day in every way really can just change the dynamics of your thoughts and your feelings physically, emotionally, and mentally, not to mention spiritually. So, medicated meditation is absolutely one of the key things I would also recommend. If you want to learn more or you want some help to meditate, book a call with me, book a discovery call. We can schedule some quality time that'll help you to help you. Okay. You can do that at greenirene.ca, fightfibro.ca. You can also go to calendly.com/greenirene and book a discovery call with me there. But just go to the websites. It's just so much easier. Another really important factor to avoiding flares, coping with flares, and potentially preventing flares or post a flare is rest, relaxation, and sleep. Now, I know when you're in screaming pain, sleep does not come easy. I get that, but it is genuinely the best thing that you can do for yourself at this time. Our bodies heal best when they are at rest. That is something my nanny would say so much in my childhood, and I hear myself saying it just as many times now. And I realize again that sleep does not come easy for us fibro fighters. Some things to help get a good sleep. Cannabis, of course, really genuinely helps with sleep. A high indica, or a high THC, an indica strain with high THC percentage is tremendously helpful. Some of the things that I really like are Granddaddy Purple, Hindu Kush. Those are two of my favorites. And there's several others. There's plenty of them out there. One of the things you want to look for in an indica, high THC, is the terpenes. You want to get something with any of these. You want to look for these particular terpenes. It's terpinolene. So that's terpinolene, terpinolene. Myrcene is another one. Myrcene. Very important. And carofilene. And I'm probably not pronouncing these terpenes properly, but carofilene is also extremely helpful in helping us to get some sleep. Consuming cannabis about 10 minutes prior to a nap or bedtime with a strain, like I said, like Granddaddy Purple, Purple Project, Hindu Kush, I mean, oh, White Widow. There's all kinds of them. They can really help to catapult you into a beautiful dreamscape time, allowing your body to heal during the rest period. And last but not least, honestly, just be nice to yourself. This too shall pass. As long as you're willing, you're training, you're developing your warrior skills, you will succeed. I don't know how else to tell you. But this too shall pass. It always does. Now, all of that being said, hello, Ginger. It's so good to see you, my friend. It's good to see you back. Oh, there you are. Hi. Okay, I'm so glad I just got my comments set up there. So yes, some of the things we really want to do: rest, sleep, meditate, exercise, manage your food intake, be cautious of what you're eating, be aware of what you're eating. Go to fightfibro.ca, download the battle strategy guide. It's got some really great tips for filling out either of the template choices to help you identify your triggers in advance and provide you with some really good quality tools and techniques that work for you to help you during a fibro flare. I believe we're pretty much done with our time today. Yes, I managed that time really well despite my cognitive dysfunction today. All right, I'm going to suggest that you be healthy, get strong, and stay lit. I'm Green Irene. You can find me on greenirene.ca, fightfibro.ca, healthyselfhypnosis.com, and of course, I'm on Facebook and all kinds of other social media. You'll also find some YouTube channels at Green Irene's THC and Cannabis Corner Cafe. If you have any questions, please send them to me directly via Facebook Messenger. You can send them to me by text. You can send them to me by email at info@greenirene.ca. And I will do my best to answer all of your questions and point you in the right direction for more information. On that note, I'm Green Irene saying cheers, stay safe, be happy, get healthy, stay strong. Ciao for now.